Let's say you're a streamer, right? You got your OBS set up nice and easy. You got your esports game, right? You don't want to risk any performance for your esports games because you want to be popping off. So you use your GPU encoder, right? Let's say you have an AMD GPU, like a 5600 XT, right? That's a terrible idea. Don't use it ever. What you're gonna want to do is use your CPU for encoding. And I know what you're saying. Well, oh mate, my CPU, it's a Ryzen 3, records 480p, it drops frames, and oh mate, how you expect me to use my CPU if it only records at 480p and even then it drops frames? Well, that's because you're not doing it right. It's because you're not setting up your settings right, friend. Alright, so here's the thing. Let's say you're using your AMD GPU. There's a thing, right, where you can like change your bit rate, right? Well, you can go anywhere. If you're streaming to Twitch, you can go anywhere between 0 kilobits per second and 6,000 kilobits per second. Okay, let's do some math here, right? Let's do some math. 1920 by 1080 equals 2,073,600 for one frame. And if you times this by 60, you get 124,416,000. Alright, well, if you're doing this, alright, you're sitting here like, oh gosh man, that's a lot of stuff, but what does that mean for me? Well, that means that's 124 megabits per second. Not kilobits. That's way more than. All right, look, it's got a 6,000. That's right. 6,000 kilobits is this is 6,000 kilobits. As you can see, this is a much larger number than this, and it doesn't look like, but this is only 6 million. All right, this is 6 megabits per second. All right. Well, what if I told you that there was a way to get even better quality at 6,000 megabits? Oh gosh, mate, that sounds like a dream. All my videos on my stream look choppy, and they got the blocks, all the blocks everywhere. Well, look. Alright, so see, that's why you use your CPU. In AMD settings, for their graphics cards, or NVIDIA too, probably. I think I've seen NVIDIA settings. I don't think they look much different than AMD ones. They don't have any settings for how many cycles the encoder is supposed to work on the frame. So they have one quality preset for the entire frame, or for the entire encoder, right? So if you're using the entire encoder, like with one thing, if it looks choppy at 6,000, Twitch won't let you go any higher than that normally. And if you got if you're a partner or something like that, and you got more bits, cool. But you normally can't go any higher than 6 megabits. Or 6,000 kilobits. Well, what are you supposed to do? Well, let me show you the settings for X264, the CPU encoder. Ooh, what's that? CPU usage preset. Oh, mate, I saw that didn't know what to do. Oh, I set it to ultra fast because I got my CPU to be able to record 1080p 30 FPS because I got Ryzen 3. I haven't had overclock to reach that, and it's better, but it's still not right. Well, see this thing here. Basically, it's the setting that allows you to set how long the CPU is supposed to be working on the frame. If you set it to ultra fast, it says higher equals less CPU. If you set it to ultra fast, it'll spend less time working on the frame. So it'll work on the frame ultra quickly, and then it'll move on. Well, if you go all the way down here to very slow, placebo doesn't do anything. It's the same as very slow. If you go here to very slow, well, it'll spend forever on the frame, bro. Absolute forever. You're like, oh god, that means my CPU spent like 30 days working on this one frame. I'll be dropping frames like crazy. Not really. Because what you're supposed to do with these settings is, if you're working at, let's say you're working at ultra fast, and you got like 60,000 kilobits. That's 60 megabits per second. That's about enough for 1080p 30 FPS raw. Alright? And this is all CBR, so it's all like constantly given the same amount of information everywhere. So if you get it for ultra fast, The same thing you do for super fast would be at 30 megabits per second, and then you cut it in half the further down you go. So if your CPU can do super fast and you want to stream to Twitch, all right, it'll look literally. There's not really a setting, or it's not really a thing for it, like a measurement, but it will technically look twice as good, if that makes any sense. Because super fast spends, each level down spends twice as long as on the frame than the setting above it. So the slower it is, the amount twice that it'll do. And this is great to know, because AMD GPUs and NVIDIA GPUs can't do this, right? If you got these things, they're almost always on like for AMD it'd be ultra fast, and for NVIDIA it'd be super fast, right? Because they've got, big fancy encoders. But the thing is, you can't change how long they spend on it, so it'll always be like, focus please. So it'll always spend the same amount of time. So you can't, if it looks bad at 6,000, it'll always look bad at 6,000, because you can't bump it up anymore. I have a friend, he has an AMD GPU, and I'm always saying, hey, why does your thing look blocky? And his only thing that he can do is really lower the resolution and the frame rate. But see, here's the thing. He also has a Ryzen 7 3800X. It's an amazing CPU, right? And he plays Rainbow Six Siege. Like, seriously, he plays Rainbow Six Siege. So if it's Rainbow Six, even if he's on the Vulkan one, he's probably not going to be using any more than like 6 cores. Or he's got hyper-threading, so about 10 threads probably. Well, that opens him up to have another 6 threads for this entire thing here. Alright, 6 threads for this whole baby here. So if I'm doing good, like with super fast 6,000 kilobits on an old generation Ryzen 3, which has it's 4 cores and 4 threads, and I'm doing good sitting at around 10. I'm not recording this, so I gotta actually do that. I'm sitting pretty at a nice 50% CPU. That's this is using the equivalent of 2 of my cores, or 4 of my cores at 50% usage. All right, that's still good. That's actually decent. Hey, drop down to like 30 something for a minute. Hello. No, it's spiked, of course. It's spiked when you actually start doing stuff. But anyway, this is equivalent to using basically 2 cores. If he's got 6 that are faster, even better than the ones I've got, hey, he can go to probably very fast and still be good at having all the things. And this is even with doing like high process priority, as you can see here. So it's actually a very reasonable option. And everything you'd see with like, everybody say, don't use your CPU. I can't use my CPU. It's bad idea. It looks worse. Well, that's because everybody doesn't know how to set it up properly. If you're trying to stream, use your CPU. Unless you have an AMD no, not if you have an AMD. If you have an AMD GPU, it looks awful. But if you have an NVIDIA GPU, go ahead, I guess. I've seen quality of that. It actually looks fine. But if you have an AMD CPU, like my friend does, he should be using his CPU at 6 megabits. So use the CPU. Say something most people don't say. If you've got like a Ryzen 7 or hell, even a Ryzen 5, we've got a 3600, it's got hyper threading, it's got 12 threads, that gives you, let's say you're playing Valorant. Valorant uses like 6 cores, 6 threads. Still got another 6 threads for OBS. Or if it uses 8 out of the 12, still got another 4. Hell, even if it uses 2, or even if Valorant uses 10 cores, it gives OBS 2 cores, 2 threads to work with, 2 threads. It's still usable, and this is on an older node. Like, this is on the 2000 series, AMD 2000 series Ryzen 3s. Maybe sure I've overclocked it to 4 gigahertz because it's old and runs like ass, but that's okay. I'm getting a 3600 right soon, and I'll tell you how it goes, because that thing has hyperthreading. I'm going to use my CPU to encode, because I've got a GT 1030, which are meant for media playing, like this. Alright, as you can see, this normally 1080p 60 FPS video playing a media source, you know, you would think if I was using my CPU to encode and to play the video, you know, but the GPU, because it's the NVIDIA GT series, don't have encoders. At least they didn't. So, CPU. Good idea. Alright? Use it.